I'd been wanting to make oil paintings for kind of quite a while, but never really had the right idea to work with. And I'd been installing an exhibition in Bourges in France, and I'd only gone for 24 hours, but weirdly I had an attack of appendicitis and finished up staying for the week in hospital and was in a lot of pain, a lot of painkillers. I eventually escaped after 4 days, but I was still quite delirious. On the way to the train station, I'd stopped off in the museum and I was browsing through books of medieval paintings, waiting for my taxi. And I was getting lost in a lot of the folds of the drapery and the clothing and the tablecloths inside these paintings. They became almost like abstract images. And I then went to the train. I was getting on the train and I was folding my ticket up, and as the train was pulling out, the sun came through the window and it caught this little folded piece of paper in such a way that it reminded me of what I've been looking at in these paintings. And I started wondering about taking something that's quite insignificant and making a painting out of it. And then it struck me that it looked a little bit like an empty cocaine wrapper, and I thought that would be quite a funny thing to monumentalize and to pay that much attention to, particularly if it was an empty cocaine wrapper. It's like you're staring into the abyss as you're seeing this debased scrap of nothing. And I thought that was quite an interesting thing. It might translate into a painting. And it then struck me as the train journey got a little bit further that it could be taken as a metaphor for the situation that certainly the UK is in at the moment with this financial abyss that we're facing. It's like there's been a binge culture. People have been spending too much, living on credit. We've reached the end of that time. It's the bottom of the barrel. There's nothing left, and this whole age of kind of quite vulgar consumption is over. And I thought it could also play into a number of ideas about painting. Trompe-l'oeil painting, which is basically illusionistic. It's making you believe that something's there when it's not there. It's like you're looking at something that has depth, or the illusion of depth, but it's not. It's a flat surface, so it plays with that. But also the paintings resembled modernist abstract paintings initially. So when you see them, you're quite comfortable with them because you think you know that genre, and as you examine them more closely, you see that they're kind of the opposite of that. They're paintings based on very strict observation. They're not abstractions.
When you look at the scale of these paintings, as you talked about something being monumental, being blown up, and a cocaine wrap being within your hands, being able to discard it, and these paintings, you can't escape from them. Could you talk a little bit about that scale, about looking at this painting and being in its presence?
I thought it was quite important that the pictures should have some scale, that when you stand in front of them, you can almost lose yourself in them as you're looking, so that they become this void, field of void, and they tie into certain paintings that deal with that tradition of the abyss or the sublime, from Caspar David Friedrich to Mark Rothko, this thing of being overawed by nothingness, which is a problem when you get into painting anyway. You've got a blank canvas or a piece of paper and you've got to make a mark on it, and it's you against that void. The actual references that I painted from initially were all monochromatic, so they were taken from post-it notes which were folded up into small little cocaine wrappers. I think there have been plenty of moments when the painting's just been slashed and ripped out and stretched again and slashed and ripped out and stretched again until they get right. And it's kind of a similar process to other things that I've been doing. A lot of the time I'm using photography and I'm manipulating it in Photoshop, so you're aware of the fact that top right of the image is a little bit too dark or too light, or you need to rotate it, or you need to get rid of a highlight or bring a highlight in. So it's a kind of a similar process, except you're working with different media. It's pigment instead of pixels. But generally you're making an image, so the end game's the same.
One of the things you mentioned earlier was an anxiety, and I thought that might be quite interesting to talk about the title of the exhibition, This Is Not an Exit, and about how that really works with the body of work.
I decided to settle on lifting 5 words from the very end of American Psycho. It's a moment when he realizes that he's stuck inside this debauched cycle, and that the way he's behaving, he's not going to get out of it. And I think it's quite telling that this enlightenment comes to him from signage. It's like a sign above a door. It doesn't come from a poet or any higher being. It's just this kind of very blank, unemotional bit of information that's giving him the knowledge. And it's quite angular. It's got a lot of elbows. This is not an exit. It's got a bit of traction to it. And for me, it referred to all the 3 things in the fact that it's the money thing that you're caught up in. There's no exit from it if you're going to get obsessed with making more and more of it. It refers to drugs and their very nature, that they become addictive and you can never really consume as much as you want to consume. There's always more to be had. And it refers to the idea of illusionistic painting, that you have a portal there on the wall, and there is the idea, there's a possibility, potential, that you can escape through this thing into another world, but you can't. It's a flat surface. It's an illusion.